So I am Chrissy Brown from Loyola New Orleans, and I am here today to really talk about learning outcomes and what we have done for the past year. Much like Mary and Rosemary's presentation about their own path, our path was this past year and has been 2 years in the making, much of which has really been inspired by this conference. This is my 3rd year at this conference, and I will tell you that every time I come, it's like drinking from a fire hose. There are just a smattering of ideas that we get. And look to your left, this terrace is also a really productive place to then figure out how you're going to integrate them at your own school. These are pictures of us literally working. The last conference, we spent a lot of time on the terrace, but after we really harnessed that motivation to come back to our school and form an ABA Taskforce. And we had a couple of goals in mind, but the task force committee, we did not invite the whole faculty in on it originally, but we wanted to make sure that we were drafting outcomes, but that we needed data. So what we did is every Wednesday at 8 a.m., as much as we didn't want to do it, we met, and we held ourselves steadfast to meeting. And we only met for 1 hour, and we set an agenda, and we shared a cloud-based program, because there's a lot of information out here on outcomes and assessments. And then we realized we need more data. We need practitioner data. And so we started organizing roundtable discussions with our practitioners. And then we hosted a breakfast forum, and we had different, as you can see, 6 roundtable discussions. And we distributed surveys, both online and in person. And we used SurveyMonkey to do this. It was based on a lot of the Schultz and Zedek skills and character traits. And we wanted to analyze that data because I remember David Trickett literally asking me, who are your alums and where are they going and what do they look for in your students? And I thought, well, that's really interesting. So the goal was basically to collect data and then bring it back to our faculty and convince them, look, we need to do this because our practitioners who are hiring our alums say this. And so notice, we did want to make sure that we had a diversity in practice, and we noticed that our alums, many of them are civil practice, small and mid-size. Many are social justice oriented. We need a bigger survey. We need more data. One of the questions that we asked was a character trait that they admired of a lawyer for them, right? Who did they aspire to be? And this basically shows you all of these really powerful character traits and skills that came out of their kind of data. This you probably cannot see, but it's a really interesting analysis here. What really is troubling to me is what they are identifying at the end of the scale as not so important are community engagement, self-development, and really evaluating and mentoring. Instead, practitioners are saying analysis and reasoning is important. When we did the same survey for our students, you can see how it's somewhat parallel to what the practitioners are saying, which makes me speculate, are we just producing the same thing, right? Are we producing students that then turn into practitioners, and are we really changing anything? And so that made a very interesting discussion in these roundtables, and equally when we got back with the data. What we first did is we started looking at the ABA learning outcomes, and we noticed not enough here. It's not enough. The ABA, I'm going to just say this provocatively, didn't go far enough, and there's a lot of vague concepts. When we talk about legal research, we need more than legal research. We need factual research in order to put together legal theories. And then other professional skills, that could mean any and everything. They gave us a little bit of an indication, but our really big motivator here was the interpretation. A law school may also identify some that are that you're interested in that are specific to your culture. So here are ours. Starting with the first one, knowledge and substantive law and process. We have a civil and common law curriculum, and so we wanted to make sure that students know the difference between the two. We wanted to know, and you'll see this throughout, that law, how is it created, right? How is it applied? That this is a process, and so we wanted to talk about that. Analysis and reasoning, we had long discussions about how facts change, and students are used to just being given the facts and not cultivating the facts through client interviewing and really that kind of interpretation of what clients need or what they're saying. So we wanted them to be able to investigate facts and then do that non-legal research in order to develop their legal theories. Big discussions on this, and a lot of divide, just to be quite honest, between the clinical faculty and our doctrinal faculty. They'll get the facts eventually, and you're like, no, they don't get it. They don't not quite understand how these facts are developed and will change a whole theory of a case. This one I fought really hard for, the relationship-centered lawyering. Again, I think this was an important aspect to basically articulate to our students. And then we wanted communication to also be identified not just with clients, but also their colleagues and then decision makers. So I put this visual in here because, as you can see, are we biting off more than we can possibly chew and assess, right? But we want them to be able to construct solutions, so conflict resolution we thought is an important goal, and then practice. We want them to practice those skills in our curriculum. When we talked about professional identity, some of the big language that came out, we relied on what our practitioners were telling us, that we want them to understand that they need to establish a reputation. And I will tell you that the first verb, right, these verbs, be alert to, right? We have at Loyola, we are a Jesuit mission university, and so we wanted them to be alert to the Jesuit mission, and the commitment to public service is a very big component of what we do. We want them to at least be able to recognize who are vulnerable populations. And so now the big word is, how are we going to assess that? One piece that I did discover this past summer is that ExamSoft has an incredible tool that allows you vertical and horizontal assessment that professors can then identify in their own exams what questions link up to your institutional goals. So that is the next piece, and I know we're all struggling with it, but thank you for your time.